Mountain, Island, Lightning Bolt, Spell Pierce, Switchblade, Stab Wound, Red Mage, Blue Mage.
How do you do a podcast?
Welcome. That's how you do it.
No.
Welcome to Red Mage, Blue Mage with me, the Red Mage, Kenny.
What? Excuse you? Haven't you been just doing Blue Mage this entire time that I've not been present?
That's true. I've been doing MTG ASMRs where the preview image says Blue Mage because it's been all Blue Mage all the time because you have been AWOL. I have to tell you, the audience has been clamoring for your return.
The audience of one?
Yeah, Seth was like, where's Amber?
Amber's been having a bad month. That's what Amber's been doing.
Okay, but what about the other 2 months?
What do you mean the other 2 months?
I think the last time we recorded was
September 3rd, 2021.
That was 2 months ago.
It's October. It's November. Oh no! I don't know how time works anymore. I mean, nobody can see, but I look just completely haggard. Haggard.
You look like Merle Haggard.
There you go. I don't know who that is, but probably looks like shit, just like me.
You look fine. You forced me to turn off my Discord virtual background so you could see my hovel.
Yeah, well, look, you can see my hovel. You can see my...
Your place looks nice.
You can see the...
I'm seeing natural light. I'm seeing polished wood floors. I'm seeing decanters and bookshelves.
Halloween pumpkin pillow.
Yeah, and in mine, this looks like a horrible studio apartment, even though I'm not living in a horrible studio apartment right now.
You know what? It looks fine. You got paisley curtains flowing in the breeze, a mustard bedspread on a sad bed behind you. It looks great.
This is why you wanted me to do it, is so you could feel better by comparison.
I am in a sitting room in my house. My 5-story mansion.
I'm in my den/guest bedroom/bathroom.
It's not a bathroom. There's not a bathroom in there.
Everything's a bathroom if you want it.
Whatever. Speaking of bathrooms, let's talk about this podcast.
Excuse
where
you.
I have taken a huge dump. Where I've taken a huge dump on.
I was going to say, you can't criticize this podcast. You have not been on it. So
I can, because
please.
I haven't been on it. So therefore, I can criticize.
Absolutely not.
Sure I can. Amber.
You haven't even listened to it.
I said, Amber, why haven't you been on this podcast? I'm criticizing myself.
Okay, that's different.
No.
Criticizing yourself is different than criticizing the podcast.
Whatever. Let's talk about Magic the Gathering. That's what we're here for. Nobody wants to hear about my sad life.
Yeah, let's get into it. Let's take a trip to Flavor Town.
Oh yeah, welcome to Flavor Town, home of the creamiest flavors this side of Berlin. I can't run. It is a Lurgoy.
Because Wizards, about a week and a half ago, I believe, 2 weeks ago, they issued an interesting marketing thing for the upcoming set, which you saw and you started slavering over.
Okay, so like how I treat most of my emails, I see the line and I go, maybe this is interesting to me. And sometimes arena stuff is interesting to me because, I don't know, I like to know about games I used to play when I had time and emotional bandwidth to enjoy things. And for some reason, this one cracked me up because it was like, Crimson Vow, welcome to the wedding event of the century. I mean, this is just what I remembered. But it was something, and I don't even remember the pictures. I don't even think I looked at the promotional image. I just saw the words and thought, who the heck is getting married? And why do we even care? And what's a Crimson Vow? Is this about vampires? Wait, is there a new set that's come out? I've slept for 2 months straight. I must have missed something. I'm not going to research this at all. I'm just going to talk to Kenny and have him explain it to me later. And that was the whole journey of that email.
Okay. So it sounds good. So I think the way I want to approach this is you ask me questions, and I will try to answer them.
What's the new set that just came out?
That is, we're previewing, or that just came out prior to this?
Oh my... Ooh, there's two... I'm gonna start crying. What have I missed? I can't keep up with anything.
Well, let's think. Because, okay, there was Strixhaven. You remember Strixhaven?
I don't like the elephants.
You didn't like Strixhaven. Then the D&D set came out. We did talk about that.
Yeah, because
we had an episode where we were saying, is it cool? Because there were some people who were acting like it wasn't cool.
Whatever.
And we basically agreed it was cool. And then, after that, Innistrad Midnight Hunt came out.
Okay, so the Bloodborne one?
No, I mean, I don't want to dignify it with the Bloodborne seal.
Okay, what do you want to call it? Dark Souls?
No, nothing. I want to call it Innistrad Midnight Hunt. So, you may remember, ages and ages ago, they were previewing all the sets that were going to come out this year. They were like, there's going to be Strixhaven, School of Mages, and we were like, oh, is it going to be Harry Potter? That doesn't sound very good. And there's going to be a D&D set, and there's going to be Universes Beyond. And there's going to be, and this is what they called it when they previewed it, 2 Innistrad sets, which at the time they were calling Innistrad Werewolves and Innistrad Vampires. That was like their name for it at the time.
Oh, like a working name?
Well, yes. Which to me just sounds like a corporate name that they would attach to these files they're working on. We're going to make an Innistrad set. It's going to be a werewolf set. So right now it's Innistrad Werewolves, whatever.
Yeah, do you not know how that works? That's what companies have all the time.
I mean, I completely agree. I just think it's weird that they told us their working names.
Yeah, that is very weird, because usually you never hear about it. But, I mean, Magic the Gathering has always been more open about their R&D stuff.
That's true.
I mean,
that's kind of like...
It's like...
Their articles are all about that.
I mean, Nintendo has done it before. Like, when the Nintendo GameCube was supposed to come out, it was called the GameCube Dolphin. And then there was also Project Natal, which was Xbox 360's Kinect.
Right.
So I've heard that before.
What was the name of the Wii originally?
Not Dolphin.
It also had it was
Revolution.
Yes, Project Revolution.
Yep.
And then they came. The only reason I remember that is because of Penny Arcade, because I remember they have an episode, a podcast where they're talking about it, and they announced the real name of the Wii, and they're like, "Are you kidding me?" Like the Revolution is. They're like the Revolution. It's like, oh my god, this is so cool! It's a revolution.
And
like,
yeah,
we have the real name, the Wii.
It's a revolution. Wii. You don't you do that when a revolution happens? That's what I sound like. Wii, off with their heads.
I remember them making fun of it, because they're like, the name literally means piss. Like, you can't make fun of it.
No, it means small.
It worked. Thing. I mean, you can't disagree with them. It totally worked.
You know what cracks me up?
They had 2 consoles named after it.
You know what cracks me up is the fact that I can remember things like Dolphin and Project Natal and Revolution and stuff like that. But like, I've had it in my company where we've had stuff like called the Devo, named after the Disco Volante, which is like, there's all sorts of fun stuff like that. And then the names come out for the real thing, and you're like, the people who worked on it for 2 years now have to name it again. And it's like, so there's stuff in my company where like I only refer to that product line as the working title internally, because that is what it's called to me. So that's pretty funny. Also, I think Dolphin, they should have kept it. Why GameCube?
Why any of it?
Why anything?
They come up with these names. The thing is, like, if you do, I mean, you come out with these names. I will say this, getting back to Magic here. Innistrad Midnight Hunt is definitely better than Innistrad Werewolves.
Well, yeah.
And Innistrad Crimson Vow is better than Innistrad Vampires.
So I was right. It is about vampires.
It is about vampires.
Dang.
So here's where I wanted to start with today. If you are willing to go along with me, we're going to play a little game, and I think you're going to like this game.
I don't know.
No, you will like this game. Trust me.
Games? Is it called?
Yes.
Is it like a read? There's no way in the world I'm ever gonna get it right. Please read my mind kind of game, because those are the kind of games I like. Damn it. Okay.
Well,
Taco?
it kind of is. So here's the thing: you don't know anything about the story in Innistrad Midnight Hunt, right?
I have no idea about Innistrad.
Perfect. I'm going to read you some of the cards and flavor text of the story spotlight cards.
Oh boy.
I'm nesting that in quotation marks. And I'm going to have you try to guess what you think the story was for the last set. Just based off the cards that are supposed to tell you what it's about.
Okay. All right. You're right.
Does that sound fun?
I do like this.
Yeah, I thought you would. Okay. So I'm going to read you a handful of cards. Some of them I'll read you flavor text. Some of them I'll tell you just what they do. And then you can comment as you like. So feel free to hold up a finger and interrupt me if you want to make a comment. Okay?
Okay. I can do that.
Okay. So here are some cards. First of all, Borrowed Time. This is a white enchantment. And the flavor text says, Teferi stepped calmly into the fray. Suddenly the sun paused in the sky, and the werewolf snarls froze on their faces.
Is Teferi in love with a vampire?
Okay, that's one card. Next up, a story spotlight card, Light Up the Night. This is a card that shows Chandra doing Chandra fire things. It does damage to a target, it does damage, you can flash it back. That's the whole thing. This is a story spotlight. There's no flavor text.
What was the name of the card called again?
Light Up the Night.
All right.
Next up.
No comment. Okay.
Rite of Harmony. Green-white instant. Whenever a creature or enchantment enters the battlefield under your control this turn, draw a card as a flashback. And the flavor text says, Nature bends to the witch's call.
Okay.
Another story spotlight, Sunset Revelry, a white spell, a sorcery. If an opponent has more life than you, you gain 4 life. If an opponent controls more creatures than you, create 2 1/1 white human creature tokens. If an opponent has more cards in hand than you, draw a card. No flavor text.
Wait, what's the name of it called again?
Sunset Revelry.
And what's the art depicting?
Do you want to see?
Yeah.
One moment, please.
Okay, I'm looking at it. It's like a party in the woods with some lanterns and fallish looking colors. Okay, cool.
People dressed up as deer.
All
Next
right.
up, Teferi, who slows the sunset. It's a blue-white Teferi Planeswalker. The name is the big thing. And finally, Unnatural Moonrise, another story spotlight. It's a green and red card, and it turns it to night. So a big mechanic in this set is turning it from day to night and night to day. This one turns it to night. So those are your cards. What do you think the story is?
The story from the last set or the story for this set?
The story in Midnight Hunt, the last set we were at.
Okay.
Not the one we're previewing. This is the one that just happened.
Well, obviously Teferi plays a big part in this. And I think he would be a good ally for the creatures of the night because if he can control time and like the time of day and stuff. So is there some sort of weird night alliance with Teferi? Is Teferi helping out werewolves and vampires to stay as werewolves? So this is where my mind would go. There's some sort of fun happen. They're all happy about Teferi doing something for them, the werewolves. The end. That's my story.
You have the right general idea, but backwards.
Wait,
Teferi
is
an
Teferi
ally
gonna
of
kill
the
the werewolves?
I don't know about kill, but keep in mind the name of Teferi. Teferi who slows the sunset.
Oh.
So is he trying to hasten the night? No. He's trying to prolong the day as long as he can.
I see. I got it backwards in my head.
Yes. So ultimately, what is going on in Midnight Hunt is on Innistrad, the nights have been getting longer and longer.
Go tell me about Midnight Hunt.
So the story was that the night has been getting longer and longer, the days are shorter and shorter, and something is approaching called the Eternal Night, which is, as it says on the box, night is going to last forever on Innistrad, which is bad news for the people of Innistrad, because now werewolves and vampires and monsters are going to run amok forever.
Why not just become a werewolf or vampire?
Yeah, I don't know. There was a great card in original Innistrad. I think it might have been in Dark Ascension, like the second set in Innistrad, the original Innistrad block, where it was a human giving herself up and being like, please turn me into a vampire. It's like, yeah, why not?
Hell yeah.
Like, you get to have fun as a vampire.
My thing, I guess, is if vampires in Innistrad are like vampires in our lore, if there's no humans, what do they eat?
So that was what the original Innistrad block was about. So Sorin is from Innistrad originally, and there's a delicate balance on Innistrad between the monsters who want to prey on humans, but left to their own devices, they would just kill all the humans, and then they have no food source. They're just going to die. So Sorin's whole thing is, I need to actually protect the humans somewhat, so that my kind, vampires, have some kind of food source to continue to exist. So he creates the Angel Avacyn to protect humans.
No. What you do is you pull a matrix, like the robots, and you just put people into like big old blood bags.
You make a human farm.
Yeah, and you develop. Honestly, it should be like, what's the Robo World? Ixalan? Is that the right place? Who does
Kaladesh?
People
Mirrodin?
with artifacts. Yeah, that one, Mirrodin. They should team up, Mirrodin and Innistrad, and make a matrix so that the vampires and werewolves can eat their humans, and there could be a card just called Blood Bag, and it's sad because it's just a human in a bag.
Yeah, or you could do even something simpler than that. You could just, like, in the same way we're like trying to grow animal muscle tissue in a petri dish, just grow human blood in a magic blood bag.
Yeah, just skip all that altogether and just figure out how to make blood. Jesus, Soren, get with it. Make a whole angel? You put your efforts into the wrong area. If you can make an angel, you can make blood.
Crypto.
Yeah, if you can make an angel, you can make blood.
You've always said that.
Every day I say that to myself as like a pump up. Amber, you can make, if you can make an angel, you can make some blood, and then you can become a vampire, and you can live out your dreams.
So that was the story of Midnight Hunt, and it ended. Humans were trying to conduct a ritual to end the Eternal Night, but the story ended with Olivia Voldaren, a vampire queen, showing up and stopping the ritual, stealing an artifact that was needed to finish it, and now it's Eternal Night. The Eternal Night has arrived. And now we are into Crimson Vow.
And somebody's getting married, and there's a party
Olivia Voldaren
in
is getting married.
Innistrad.
Yep. It's Olivia Voldaren. She is the one getting married.
To what? The knight?
No. She is marrying Soren Markov's grandpa.
What?
Edgar.
Is he a vampire?
He is. So he is the progenitor of all vampires on Innistrad.
Oh.
And he is like a classic Dracula. He sleeps in a coffin for centuries and millennia at a time and is sometimes woken up. And so Olivia woke him up and said, "Hey, do you want to get hitched?"
Okay, that makes... What? Why? What's the point of doing that? Does she become super powerful if she gets his vampire baby? Or like, is there some like legal thing where she gets married to him? She inherits all the vampires?
Yeah, it's basically a political thing. She's basically, by being the head of the Voldarans and marrying a Markov, she is going to be the queen of all vampires on Innistrad. And given that it's Eternal Night, she's kind of making herself queen of Innistrad by doing this.
What's her damage?
I don't know. She just wants to rule everything.
That sounds pretty boring.
I know. I'm kind of disappointed because I like Olivia as a character. And
Why?
It seems like a pretty mundane rule. Because I love vampires.
But why? What makes her any different than any other fucking vampire?
Well, the thing is, when we first got to know her on original Innistrad, they really were playing up the idea that the vampires in this world, they're almost like being portrayed as the elite, the bourgeoisie, like they're partying, and like it's the decadent vampire. That's the vampire of Innistrad.
Okay.
They've been glutting themselves on blood for a long time. They're ignorant of the problems. They're ignorant of how their consumption is going to kill them in the end. And so, like, there's some interesting stuff going on there, and I like the sophisticated, decadent vampire. Like, that's a fun version of vampire lore for me. So that's interesting. So to then make her be like, I want to rule everything, is like, really? Again?
Well, no, that's why I'm asking you why. But you just described a group of vampires, not this character specifically.
I think she is emblematic of it.
Okay, in what way? Like, what does she do? Is there stories about her? Like, what's her fucking deal?
I mostly just know her from her original artwork, which is showing her floating above a ballroom, like lifting her skirts and drinking from a blood wine cup. Like, it was just a good image. Like, I don't really know any extra story beyond that. Like, that's all there was. And that was enough for me. I was like, I get who this person is.
Yeah, she sounds boring.
I think she is boring in this story. Like, her goal is to rule over everything. Really? I'm
getting really, really tired of like the tropey narrative. I mean, okay, look, I know I'm 33. I'm not exactly old. I'm not exactly young anymore. But I consume so much media that at this point in time, I feel like so many of these things are very overdone for me. But I know that these aren't always catering to just me, right? Like, I can't always have an existential Eldrazi ARG or MTG set, you know? Like, that's not going to happen. And so I get it could be for, like, this would probably have appealed to, like, 17-year-old Amber, 18-year-old Amber, maybe even 22-year-old Amber. But at this point, I'm like, nah, you know what really gets me is What We Do in the Shadows, and a vampire that wants to try to be human, and so he joins a health club of other vampires trying to become human, and they pull their teeth out every night, and then they try to eat food but are constantly vomiting, and then are participating in toxic positivity. To me, that's where I want to see things, but we're not going to see that in Magic the Gathering because they're trying just to appeal to the core, demo, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. What would you say is a storyline from Magic the Gathering that was not tropey stock storyline stuff?
There's so few.
I think Kamigawa gets
familiar.
Up there for me. So we can talk about that someday. But that set did some interesting things. One where they flipped the color wheel on its head in terms of protagonist-antagonist. The ruler of that world is a white-aligned Lord of Samurai, and he has basically stolen divinity from the spirit world so that he can rule forever. And that has caused the spirit world to declare war on the mortal world. But nobody else knows why.
See, the whole ruling, the power questing is a weird... I'm so not interested in that. I feel like people who quest for power are just boring. You know what I mean? In general, inherently kind of a boring thing. I think about even just in our own world. It's like these boring people end up in power and then do horrible things. And then it's like, but I'm not interested in those stories anymore. I'm more interested in, I don't know, just like true character-driven arcs and stuff. I think that's really hard to do in a card game. You know what I mean? Like, I think they could do it. I think it probably has been done. I'm just not very familiar with a lot of Magic the Gathering's lore and card sets. But, like, I don't know. It feels right now exactly what I feel about Marvel, which is you had that epic storyline that happened with the Endgame and the Infinity War, and now you're just kind of going into these other stories. Like, I recently watched Shang-Chi, which I liked well enough, but it wasn't very compelling to me over the overarching narrative, because it's always like somebody had a wife who died and he's trying to get her back, so he's being lured by a demon to open up a portal that all these soul sucker dragons will come out and suck up all the dragons, and his son has to learn to love himself in order to like conquer his own father. You know what I mean? Like, and to stop and ride a dragon and stop the dragon soul suckers. And I'm like, I like the part when we found out that his sister was running an underground fighting ring. You know, that was the part that I liked. Whereas everything else was just like, okay, here we go again.
Yeah, I mean, you've been getting into... I think that's why the direction they've been going with, like, sticking with Marvel for a second. Wanda Vision and Loki, it's like, these are stories that are not about evil person wants to rule the world.
Yeah, I really love WandaVision because it was all about her dealing with her grief.
Right.
And how she was trying to protect herself from reality. And not wanting... And it was like... And it was causing problems and issues, and she had to overcome her grief in order to stop the problem that she was inflicting on the world. So I like that kind of stuff. And it's hard. I mean, I don't want to sound like I sound like I'm complaining. It's just tropey. I still like vampires. I'll still play this. I'll still play vampires.
Well, you're not against tropes, because like the exact same trope you just gave of like the villain lost his wife and wants to be reunited with his wife is exactly the background plot of your favorite anime, Evangelion.
I know.
So you're not against tropes in and of themselves. The question is, do you do anything with the trope? Do you elevate it? Do you elaborate on it? Or are you just rehashing tropes that we've seen a million times?
Yeah, and that's why I think I liked Shang-Chi to a certain degree, because it's like there was some really interesting things, and plus lore and stuff that I'm not familiar with that helped make it better for me to enjoy. But at the same time, I don't know, Amber has personally does not Amber, I'm talking to myself. I personally just, the things I am wanting to engage harder with tend not to be these ham-fisted tropes.
Yes. I've always been a proponent of, like, there's no reason you can't have it all. I remember me and my brother would get into arguments all the time about music, where he can listen to, at least back in the day, and I get most of my music from Matt. Matt's much more into music than I am. But he would listen to a band, and he's like, I just like the music. And I'd be like, but the lyrics are so bad. They're just so stock, and they don't mean anything. And the singer doesn't, like, his voice is so nasally and whiny and bad. And he's like, why can't you just enjoy this aspect of it? And I'm like, why can't I have it all? You know, why can't I have... You can have all the good stuff. You don't have to settle for it. Well, I like this part. I mean, that probably causes me to miss out on some stuff that maybe I would enjoy if I could just loosen up a little bit. But
whatever. Stay uptight.
I think also, you know, this reminds me of a conversation. So I reference at least once a day Penny Arcade and the Daily Affirmations with Scott Kurtz and Chris Straub. And Chris and Scott were talking once about media in general, and they were talking about NCIS. Yes. And if you want to talk about stock and trope, NCIS is like a perfect example of that. And Scott was making the point, yes, it is stock, but he's like, my aunt loves NCIS. She loves Walker, Texas Ranger. And it ran for 1 million seasons because for my aunt, she doesn't consume endless amounts of media, you know? For her, this is interesting and sophisticated because she just hasn't been exposed to that much stuff, which is totally fine. It doesn't make her a troglodyte because she hasn't been exposed to the wealth of media that I've been exposed to.
Right. And that's why I said for me, and I always say for me, disclaimer, it's like this would have been something that I would have been engaged with younger because my media consumption it's a lot. And especially in the last 2 years, I've watched so many things. And it's definitely difficult for me to get excited about, you know, vampires and werewolves because I already had my vampires and werewolves phase. And so I've moved on, but that doesn't mean that the next person who younger than me or older than me who's never really got into vampires and werewolves doesn't get, ooh, this is exciting, this is interesting. I just started watching I don't know, whatever a vampire show is. I watch vampire shows, but I skew so goofy that for me it's hard to get excited about stuff when it's not, I don't know, kind of poking fun at itself, kind of, you know what I mean? Like I already referenced What We Do in the Shadows as it's one of my favorite shows. Like, honestly, probably one of the best written comedies I've watched in a long ass time. That I'm just really engaged with every single character and every plot, and it still surprises me after 3 seasons of change. But it's because they do stuff that is funny about like real people just becoming vampires, not like what you see in Interview with a Vampire, these like wealthy, super serious vampires. It's not. It's like these people from the past who are like, what is the superb owl? We're going over to a superb owl party, and it turns out to be the Super Bowl, and I just didn't know. You know what I mean? Like, that stuff is great. I love that stuff. So
this also connects back with the Chris and Scott discussion. This is their very last daily affirmation. They were talking about sitcoms, but they were talking about now once you advance to a certain level of media, it's almost like you need there to be some kind of meta element to your media.
Yeah,
and it sounds like, I have not watched What We Do in the Shadows, but it sounds like it's a show that is very self-aware of all of the tropes,
yes,
and uses them all to make jokes about the very genre that it is aping.
Yes, and it's really well done. Great actors, great comedians. I'm a huge fan of Matthew Berry, so him being in it, it's a big deal for me. But anyway, we're getting off.
Whereas in Magic, to bring it back,
yes,
in Magic, the designers of the cards are really just trying to embody the tropes.
Yes,
and are trying to say, we are trying to make a card that feels like Dracula. We're not trying to make any comment about Dracula. And in fact, I just saw a preview today for Edgar Markov, and it's a cool card. Basically, he's like a vampire lord. When he dies, he transforms into Edgar Markov's coffin, and he spawns vampires, and eventually he wakes back up and turns back into his vampire form. So like they're optimizing for these cards that you're supposed to be able to grok, and you're supposed to be able to look at and be like, oh wow, that's the Dracula card.
Yeah,
you know?
And what I'm looking
their hands are kind of tied.
Yeah, and what I'm looking for is more in the Commander Secret Lair, that kind of. That's how they're gonna get me. I feel like their standard sets that come out on this time schedule are supposed to be for the people who love the tropes, love the general Magic storyline, who are people who are possibly going to be onboarded into a new game. They're going to be introduced to this stuff. They have their strong planes, their strong, worlds that they have. They're just doing it to meet that. Whereas you get the Secret Lair stuff, and you get the Commander stuff, and the unsets are more catering to people who've probably been in it, who want to stay in Magic, but they just want something different, and that's fine. So all this long talk is to say I have not been interested in the Innistrad sets at all, period, as they are presented now. Now I might go through the cards later and like use it for my vampire decks, or like building my historic decks on Arena, or potentially putting them in when I build another commander one day when I get sick of goblins. I don't think I'm ever going to get sick of goblins. So, yeah, the end. You know what I think we should do sometime? I don't know if we have time for it in this episode, because we were thinking about making this short, but we should definitely design a card, a design segment, and do Harrow the Ninth and Gideon the Ninth.
Oh, that sounds fun. Yeah, that would definitely be its own episode, I think.
Yes, but so if you keep this in. So, look forward to that, because I got Kenny reading Harrow the Ninth and Gideon the Ninth, or the Flipped Order, the Locked Tomb series. And boy, oh boy, I would love to see some necromancers in Magic the Gathering.
Yes, we'll do that for our next episode, because that sounds really fun. Before we hang it up today, I did want to show you a couple other things just to see if they tickle your fancy or make you giggle at least. So I'm going to show you a couple Planeswalker cards from this set.
Oh boy.
So Soren does make an appearance. His grandpa's getting married to Olivia. So check out, you don't have to read the card, but check out the name of the card and the art because it cracks me up.
Soren the Mirthless? What about him?
He's just like the sad sack, the drag at the party. He's just like, this sucks.
Yeah. Again, Soren to me, he's so blah on his own, but if you put him up against like a what's his face, my boy,
Krenko?
No.
I don't know who you're talking about.
2 cost Planeswalker.
Tybalt.
Oh boy. The inside of my brain was just like, imagine a bunch of Scrabble tiles inside a Yahtzee cup.
Just rolling T's and B's and vowels.
Yes. Tybalt. My brain. Wow.
Basalt.
So yeah, I think Soren works well. That character trope works well when it's up against another character. Like, think...
Yeah, you need the super serious right next to the wacky. Speaking of Gideon the Ninth, Gideon and Hero has that kind of dynamic.
And I was going to say, for people who are familiar with The Witcher, it would be, Geralt and Dandelion, I think his name is called in the book. I can't remember his name.
I don't know anything about Witcher.
Jorgen. I don't know what the bard. Good God, kill me now. Anyway, so okay, and then Soren, the Mirthless.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he should be paired with somebody that would make him fun because he would be the most fun when he's not being fun.
Yes, when he is being tried, when his patience is being tried, he would be the best character. Okay.
Yes. And then there's a new Chandra, and I will say I love the name and I love the art. So check this out. This is Chandra dressed to kill.
Oh, you sent me.
I will say this about this set, Crimson Vow. I do love the idea of this event style set where it's like it's all about a vampire wedding. And all of the characters, there's lots of cards that reference wedding and wedding announcements and invitations and guests and ballrooms. It's new, it's novel in Magic.
You know why it doesn't hit me strong as a thing? It's because guess how many times in my D&D campaign of 10 plus years I've been to vampire balls.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this does kind of, it keeps up our theme of like they're embodying tropes rather than elaborating or complicating them or doing anything new with them.
It's still great. I mean, if you told me I was going to have to dress up in character to go to a fancy vampire party, I would be so excited. And actually, we've done it like at least 3 times in our D&D campaign, and each time it's because we show up and we fuck up the tropes. Like, I literally nagged a 10,000-year-old vampire child constantly because it was just hilarious to make Josh try to be a fancy boy vampire, and he couldn't keep it up. The persona. And I was just like, tell me why I should join your coven or whatever. Like, what's your 5-year plan? Like, what's your 500-year plan? How are you gonna rule the city?
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's to me it's fun to see Chandra at least looking different than she normally does. Like, I've been so sick of the last 100 Chandras all being the same. And I will say my biggest disappointment with this Chandra, the name is different, the art is different, her abilities are the same shit we've seen on Chandra for 100 billion years. She's just still pinging targets for 1 damage, exiling cards and playing them for a turn, and then a big ult that does a bunch of damage.
What they should have done is they should have had a dress up mechanic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where it's like instead of like token and like actually like tokens could have been legit like tokens of affection and stuff during a ball, kind of like a Jane Austen thing. And then she could just burn up tokens. Like she just there should have been some shenanigans.
I agree. We can talk about the mechanics from this set at a later point. Seth and I briefly talked about them when we last spoke, and we're kind of meh on them. Like, they seem kind of as tired as the tropes do in this set.
That's unfortunate.
But anyway, I will say this for Crimson Vow so far. At least it feels like it has a story. I had to look up what the story of Midnight Hunt was, and I've played a bunch of drafts of Midnight Hunt. I know all the cards. I've seen all the cards. I've looked at all the art and all of the flavor text. And you can't... There's no hint that there's a story going on in the cards. At least this one, you're like, there's a wedding going on. Okay. Like,
sure,
that's something, I guess.
The set piece, yeah. I mean, I guess
Midnight
I kind of got
like
it.
The story?
Yeah, from Midnight Hunt. I just flipped it around.
Yeah, but bear in mind, I had to read the cards to you and tell you these are the cards that tell the story.
Oh.
It's not like War of the Spark where it's like it told the story with the cards. Like, you would have to be asleep not to piece the story together.
I mean, I'm asleep most of the time.
Well, this has been our short episode, only 42 minutes long.
I have a lot to talk about when it comes to story, apparently, and what I like and what I dislike, and like picking apart stuff. So,
sure.
Woohoo! Welcome back, Amber. You did it. Nothing to criticize here. You talked beautifully. You didn't once fuck up your words. You remembered every name perfectly. Good job.
Congrats, Amber. All right, well, should we wrap up there?
Yeah, I'm going to bed. Good night. It's time for the endless
Thanks for
night.
joining us. Thanks for joining us. This has been Red Mage, Blue Mage, the triumphant return. I have been Kenny. You can find me at Wolfmere on Twitter.
I'm Amber. Look at Rocket Orca on Twitter, I guess.
And collectively, we're at RedBlueMTG on Twitter. And until next time, I'll be representing Counterspell.
And all I do is draw goblins now. Seriously, go look at my Twitter. I say I guess. I'm just joking. Please come find me. Love me. Bye.